Ooh.
I think of a place where there's love overflowing. I wish I was home. I wish I was back there with the things I've been knowing. When that makes the tall grass bend into leaning, suddenly the raindrops that fall have a meaning. Sprinkling the scene makes it all clean. Maybe there's a chance for me to go back now that I have some direction. It sure would be nice to be back home where there's love and affection, and just maybe I can convince time to slow up, giving me enough time in my life to grow up. Time be my friend, and let me start again. Suddenly my world's gone and changed its face, but I still know where I'm going. I have had my mind spun around in space, yet I've watched it growing. And oh, if you're listening, God, please don't make it hard to know if we should believe in things that we see. Tell us, should we try to stay, or should we run away? Or would it be better just to let things be? Living here in this brand new world might be a fantasy, but it's taught me to love. So it's real, it's real to me. And I've learned we must look inside our hearts if we're ever gonna find a world full of love, like yours, like mine, like home.
In case you're wondering where you've wandered into, you're a bit unsure what's happening, you are at Voices on the Green, Home Edition. If you haven't been with us before, welcome. And if you have been with us before, welcome back. It would seem we were successful in our mission to use stories and music centered around a central theme to create a sense of connection and community. And I think right now we could all use just a bit more of that. Before we explore tonight's theme, home, we want to acknowledge that Lexington is one of the traditional homelands of the Massachusetts indigenous people. We recognize the trauma that these indigenous people have faced when foreign settlers and soldiers displaced them and destroyed their ancestral homes. And we acknowledge the injustices that many still face in finding a home for their families and their future. Home. Whether it is the Homeric hero Odysseus' sense of nostos, the longing to return to the familiar, or that sense of longing that was sang in that African American spiritual, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Home has always occupied a central space in the beingness of us humans. Thank you. Tonight you will hear 6 stories, very diverse stories. Our tellers will share with you reflections ranging from the heartbreaking to the hopeful to the hilarious. Stories that emerge from happy and not so happy homes, from homes which are both safe and unsafe. And it will take us a bit to explore this diversity. And most folks you will hear tonight have never, ever told any story in front of anyone at all, let alone the ones you're going to hear. So I think they will need to know that they have folks in front of them that are human, humane, and welcoming. Do they? I thought so. A curious thing about home is how sometimes you find it in unexpected places. I did when I moved here to Lexington. Places you don't know until you get there that there is a space inside of yourself for that. Our first teller, Victoria Hardiman, knows all about that. And she will tell it to you shortly. But for now, I'll tell you that Victoria's favorite fictional character is Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games. A woman who leaves home and comes back transformed. In Victoria's various wanderings and vagabondage, when she is at airports and museums, she asks herself an hypothetical question. If Bill Gates or Warren Buffett were funding me, where would I go? What would I own? Perhaps something that adds to Victoria's idea of home. Won't you please welcome Victoria Hardiman.
Good evening. We're so glad to have you all here with us to hear stories of home. And when people ask me where I'm from, I say Oklahoma. But there's nothing in my Los Angeles, California childhood or my New York City college and university experience that would have led me to imagine living on the prairie of Northwest Oklahoma. We were there because in 1976, there were no jobs for graduate English students, and my husband proposed we'd go back to his hometown, and he would join his father's roofing company, roof for a year, and we'd wait out the economy. And while he was there, since photography was his passion, he would take photographs for a year in the life of a very small town. This town was so small that on the state maps at that time, there was no road leading to Ames, Oklahoma. And friends would call us up, how do we get to where you live? And we'd say, oh, you have to canoe down the Cimarron, and we'll meet you at the old plank bridge. So in an old leaky farmhouse, surrounded by wheat fields, I imagined I was mastering my new life when I was crossing a field carrying a bucket full of little tiny sunfish that my daughter had caught in a cattle pond, and I was returning them to their cattle pond home. And as I crossed the field, from every direction came cows, crowding in, and I absolutely panicked. I set the bucket down, and I ran for the fence. When my husband came home that evening, I told him what had happened, and he said, oh, cows are like cats. They're curious. What was in the bucket? and he carried the fish back to the pond. I was continually challenged and amazed living there, challenged when skunks moved in through the holes in the foundation under the house, set up housekeeping, and proceeded to fight and fill the entire house with unimaginable stink, made your eyes water. And amazed because we hosted a card party. And all evening long, the men would go outside, 1 or 2 or 3, and they'd come back in. And Oklahoma was a dry state, so I imagined they were going out to the trunk of the car, getting a nip, and coming back. No, when I asked my husband, he said, "Oh no, farmer style, they're out peeing on a bush." And I wondered what was wrong with my well-scrubbed bathroom. And the adventures continued. Cows took out the fence, came through the yard, and carried my children's swing set out into the sunset. The farmer came by one day with a truck, a winch, and ropes, and pulled a calf from a cow who was struggling to deliver. The calf was important, but the cow was a valuable asset. And clothes on the clothesline, they froze into instant sculptures in the winter when I tried to hang them on the line. So I wrote humorous letters home to my parents about my new world. And our year turned into 40 years. So I met my neighbors, learned about their lives, learned about how they got started in Oklahoma, their forebears in the land run of 1893, when they staked their 160 acres that was their claim in that land run. And to our already blended family of 3 older children, we added a daughter, Rebecca O'Brien, a son, Seth. I borrowed maternity clothes from the other women in town, and slowly I became part of the town. But I was still learning names and faces, and everybody knew me. "You must be Keith's wife." There wasn't any anonymity, and when we moved from the farmhouse in the country to a house in town, I hung my underwear on the clothesline on the middle lines and surrounded it with sheets and towels. This was good because I learned later that my neighbor across the street sat in her rocking chair behind her lace curtains with binoculars and watched the neighborhood. And I looked for what to appreciate in Oklahoma, and I found beautiful wildflowers everywhere. So I got my hands on as many books about Oklahoma wildflowers as I could find, and Saturdays turned into wildflower walks. Each child had a camera, my husband had his, I had the books, and in the evenings we took slides and projected them onto the dining room wall, and the children would shout out the names of the flowers. The 5 churches in this town of 200 people, 5 churches, each congregation was a family of helping hands. That was the village that it takes to raise a child. They brought food to funerals. The men harvested field for farmers who had gotten too old or too ill to do the work themselves. The women provided childcare in emergencies. There was no end to the help that was offered or the help that was accepted. And we looked around and joined a church and became part of this very vibrant community. It had always been my husband's hometown, but now it was my hometown too. As we raised children, became very active in the church, I taught German in neighboring high schools, and when I retired, I bought the convenience store in town and ran that for many years. People knew me, but I knew them now. And on Memorial Day in this town, everybody comes to the cemetery on a long, low hill, overlooking the fields to the west and the beautiful sunsets. And at the end of ceremonies, they walk among the graves and talk about the people who are lying there, and they tell stories. And under the headstone where my husband lies, near his parents, that of my parents, under the shade tree that we planted for our daughter Kirsten's grave, that will be my final home. And I am comforted to know that when people walk among the gravestones on Memorial Day, they will tell stories of me and mine as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Victoria. That was wonderful. And in the theme of home, we have to do just a little bit of housekeeping. If in an unlikely event that we should have an emergency, please follow the instructions given by the ushers. They will be moving toward the nearest exits. The ushers will be the ones screaming the loudest. The exit there, through those red curtains, or through here. I know we have signs that said, please do not enter. And in case of an emergency, enter. Go through that. And what will happen is you'll go through here and through there, and then you'll make a right and go down the steps, and it'll lead you into the parking lot. Please do not go back there. That is, everything is blocked off, and you will not be able to get out there. So please exit here or through here. Everybody cool? We got that? All right. Now, before I introduce the wondrous individual who has been providing us with music this evening, I'd like to hear another story. Our next teller, essayist Robert Isenberg, says there are at least two things we should know about him. The first is that he has shrunk a lot. And the second is that he did his best to grow up in Dorchester. But I guess that did not work out. Sometimes you have to grow up away from home. So he moved to New York City. We won't fault him for that. And he started Robert's fairly famous roast beef sandwiches. Anyone ever have one of those? They're fairly famous. You need, okay. He is an author who has written 2 books, one of which, wham, bam, New York City in the roaring 60s, is under contract for film at Universal Studios. Woo-hoo-hoo, indeed. So Robert has many skills. He can write books, he can build a great business, and apparently he can build great sandwiches. But what happens when your skills don't translate into other arenas? Let's find out. Won't you please welcome Robert Isenberg.
I got an injection today for the hip, so hopefully it's going to mend, and I can do away with this. This story is called This Old House. I was looking at the young man as my wife handed him the pen to sign the check for the deposit on the house. Suddenly, he looked up at the house, and he said, "This is a very old house. By any chance, does it have ghosts?" I could not believe what my wife said. She said, "Yes. Ghosts live here. But if you're nice to the ghosts and respect them and respect the house, they will respect you." I've seen people run fast in my life. I have never seen anybody leave the premise as fast as he did. All I saw was his backside. A few months later, we did sell the house to somebody who said he knew how to handle ghosts. How did this all begin? I was living in New York, 1968, and just before my wife and I married, I found an apartment on 54th Street. And boy, was I proud of it. It had a courtyard, backyard, whatever. It had a doorman, a fantastic rent. I was so proud of it that I painted every wall. And then my wife and I were living together, and it was fabulous. It was like a honeymoon that never ended. I knew the city, and I was showing her all the things I knew. the special theaters, the fun places to go to, the inexpensive Hungarian restaurants. Oh, we were in heaven. I was. And then one morning, she woke me up and she said, "We need a shelf in the kitchen." And I said, "Why?" She said, "To put things on." I said, "You don't understand New York. In New York, everything is delivered, and they don't deliver shelves to put on the kitchen." She said, "On your way to work, 2 blocks from here, there's a hardware store, which I'm sure you've never noticed. You go in there, and you tell them what you need, and they will tell you exactly how to do it." I put up a shelf, and we were able to put things on it. Well, life continued. Then about a few months later, she woke me up again, and she said, "We need a family." I said, "Why?" "We're having a wonderful time." She said, "Because that's what people do. They grow a family. What would you want to start with? First a dog or a child?" I said, "A dog." A year and a half later, we had a dog and a child. A few months later, once again, she woke me up and she said, "We have to move." I said, "Move? Look what we have here. It's wonderful." She said, "It's too small for us. We have to find another place in Manhattan that's larger." I said, "Forget it. Manhattan is incredibly expensive. We have a fabulous rent here. We can't do that." So she said, "Well, what about the burbs?" I said, "Okay, I know New Jersey." I said, "We'll go out there and we'll look. But before we do, we have to go to a diner in New Jersey." This time she said, "Why?" I said, "Because they serve incredible food, every food that you've ever thought of, and it's good. But more important, you'll hear the accents, and that's what our kids are going to grow up with." We went to the diner. She enjoyed the food, and she said, "Let's go somewhere else. Let's try Long Island." We did. She said, "Same thing." On the way back to the apartment, she said, "Why don't we go back to Boston and use your dad's place as a stopping-off place to find a house?" Good idea. So we did, and we got the Globe, and on Sunday, we started looking at different places, and she said, "Look at these places in Newburyport. They're palaces, and look at the prices. This is 1970. They're incredible prices. Let's drive up there," and we did. And we drove down High Street, and we were impressed. These houses were just like the pictures, beautifully landscaped. It was just remarkable and really good prices. "Let's get a realtor." The next morning we did. We met him, Raymond, immaculately dressed. We were so impressed. His shoes would shine beautifully. He had a vest and a bow tie. But best of all, he had a New England accent. He asked us basically what we were looking to pay. We told him. He said, "I'm going to start showing you some old houses." And he did. One by one, we went one old house after another old house. And the houses would cry out, "You look like such a lovely couple. Please buy us." Insensitive people come in the house with dirty shoes, and they say insensitive things like, "Look how old this house is." And it makes us feel terrible. "Please buy us." And Raymond said, "I'm going to take you to the oldest house in town." And he did. And he went on, "Look at the woodwork. Look at the patina in the wood. Look at these fireplaces. One is 5 feet tall. They used to cook in it because this house went back to the 1600s. It's a beauty, and it's got your name on it." "Really?" I said, "What's the aroma?" "Well," he says, "nobody's lived here except wild cats for the last pet." So I said, "Well, what do you do with that?" He said, "Don't worry." He says, "I'll show you how to do it." And he said, "Now I have to leave, but I'll need your decision in the morning." I looked at my wife, and I said, "Oh, my God, she's in love. She's in love with a house. She wants to buy it. What am I going to do?" I said, "Esther, please." She said, this is such a beautiful house. I know we can do it. I said, I have a job. How can we do all these things? She said, you put up a shelf. And that, folks, is a true story.
Thank you, Robert. That's funny. Kemp Harris is a composer, musician, children's author, actor, and teacher. The man can't keep a job. Kemp taught K-1, which is kindergarten and first grade, in Newton Public Schools for 38 years. He has shared the stage with Taj. Oh, yeah. Round of applause for that. He shared the stage with Taj Mahal, Gil Scott-Heron. He composed for the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, Complexions Contemporary Ballet, and WGBH Public Television. Kemp has appeared on WGBH Stories from the Stage, but his crowning achievement was that he previously graced the Vogue stage for our Silver Linings installment, at which time he told a story that was both humorous and harrowing. Kemp shares both his stories and his wonderful personality with schools throughout New England, and he enjoys performing with his band, the Kemp Harris Group. We are fortunate that we have him tonight. Won't you please give a round of applause for Kemp Harris.
City, you and I can both get jobs, finally see what it means to be living. You see, my old man's got a problem. He lives with a bottle, that's the way it is. Said his body's too old for working, a body's too young to look like his. My mama ran off and left him. She wanted more from life than he could give. She said somebody's got to take care of him. So I quit school, that's what I did. You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so we can fly away? We gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live and die this way. We were driving in your car, speed so fast it felt like I was drunk. It's right before us, and my arm felt right strapped around your shoulder. I got a feeling that I belong, and I got a feeling I could be someone, I'd be someone, I'd be someone. Still ain't got a job, so I work in the market as a checkout girl. I know things will get better. We'll find work and I'll get promoted. We'll move out of the shelter. We'll buy a bigger house and live in the suburbs. You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so we can fly away? We gotta make we were driving in your car. Speed so fast it looked like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. I had a feeling that I belonged, and I had a feeling I could be someone. I'd be someone. I'd be someone. You got a fast car. I got a job, pays all our bills. You stay out drinking late at the bar, some for your friends and you do your kids. I always hope for better. I thought maybe together you and me find it. Got no plan, you ain't going nowhere. Take your fast car and keep on driving. But I remember when we were driving in your car. Speed so fast it looked like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us, and your arm felt like wrapped around my shoulder. I had a feeling that I belonged, and I had a feeling I could be someone. I'd be someone. I'd be someone. You got a fast car. Is it fast enough so you can fly away? You gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or live and die this way.
Thank you, Kemp. Robert, our previous storyteller, recounted a tale of a home that he would eventually need to help to repair. That song Kemp sang, Fast Car, speaks of the desperation to escape a home beyond one's ability to fix. What if home, as Gil Scott-Heron sang, is where the hatred is, filled with pain, and it might not be such a bad idea if you never went home again? What if home is not a place of love overflowing, but a place of pain ever growing, or where comfort and safety are elusive ideas you fear never knowing? We're going to play a game. It's called Take Out Your Cell Phone and Turn It Off. Let's see if we can do that, shall we? I'll give you a minute. While you're doing that, I want to tell you that for the first time in Vogue's 6-year history, we are accompanied by an art exhibit that visually explores the same theme that we do in stories and language and music. The exhibit was already being put on, but the conveners heard about our show, and so they approached us with the idea of collaborating, and we were very, very happy to do that and still are, especially since the beneficiary the proceeds will be going to the artists, but not only to the artists, but to Lex Hab, which is an organization that is on a mission to bring more affordable housing and homes to people here in Lexington. And this, for us, was right on theme. And Vogue, of course, is mission-driven. No one here draws one penny, no one on the staff draws any penny at all. Everything that we get, we want to donate as much as we possibly can to organizations that we feel are doing the hard work of making Massachusetts a better place, organizations that bring a little bit of darkness, of light into those dark spaces. And I, again, think that's something we could all use a bit more of. Now we're going to introduce you to one of the hardest working people in Vogue, to bring up our community partner. Will you please welcome our managing director, Sarah Mannix.
Thank you for those stories. I think they help us begin to understand each other just a little bit more. Voices on the Way also provides us an opportunity to learn about work that's being done in our larger community. We seek out a nonprofit organization who shares values similar to ours. We promote them, we celebrate them, and we share in the profits of the evening with our partner. We are so delighted that our community partner tonight is Chaplains on the Way in Waltham. They are a non-denominational interfaith organization whose mission it is to serve those unhoused people in need in the greater Waltham area. During intermission, you'll have plenty of time to learn about the work that they do. Right now, I would like to introduce the executive director and a chaplain for Chaplains on the Way. Won't you please welcome Jill Galding.
Hello, everyone. I am Jill Galding. I'm actually, as of tonight, the director of chaplaincy and programs. We are changing and growing, just like in her story. It's really an honor for us to be here tonight. As you've heard, our core mission is to offer interfaith spiritual support to people who are experiencing homelessness in Waltham. And that's how I came to know the storyteller you just heard and to know a little bit about her powerful story. If you want to hear more stories, I hope you'll connect with me tonight or later on. I'd like to tell you about what we do and invite you to take part. You can definitely be a financial supporter, making so much of what we do possible, not just the chaplain's work, but also the summer and winter breakfast programs, our interfaith gatherings, and the really exciting grassroots activism of a group that we support called the Waltham Community Leadership Group. A little bit more about that. It's an activist group led by people with lived experience with homelessness. I think it's one of a kind in this country. And both housed and unhoused people are welcome to belong to it and take part, and it really gets amazing things done. The storyteller you just heard can tell you more because she's been one of the key leaders of that group. So you can support all of this intertwined work financially, and I would say at least as important or more important, you can take part in person. Join us. Come to any one of our gatherings, help us make breakfast, join in the interfaith service we offer each week, show up to those leadership group meetings. I think you will find that everything bears out our tagline, hope is found in hearts connected. So thank you for having us here tonight, and I hope to connect soon.
Thank you. The Chaplains on the Way for all you do to address the needs of those in need, those experiencing homelessness, a condition that any of us at any time could find ourselves in, and far too many people do. In Frank Baum's The Wizard of Oz, we encounter the protagonist, Dorothy. Dorothy is suddenly swept away by a tornado that takes her to a place in which she finds herself lost. She also finds herself without a home, homeless. And Dorothy needs to get back home, but she also needs to get back hope. Back again to close us out with something hopeful in this first half of Voices on the Green, Home Edition, Kemp Harris.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once upon a star, where troubles are so far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and if birds fly over the rainbow, why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't
Kemp Harris, everybody. Won't you please join us for a 15-minute intervention right through those doors, partake in a beverage, look at some art reflecting tonight's theme, meet someone you don't know, meet someone who maybe has done a story already, and also meet our community partner. We'll see you back here in 15 minutes, and you can bring your drink in with you, not your food, but your drink you can. Thank you all for being here. See you in the second half. Well, welcome back, everybody. We trust by the fact that you're still here that you have at least enjoyed the first half of this evening. Is that correct? Good, because we have a whole other half coming for you. But before we continue, there is a couple of things that you might be interested in. The first is that we are going to do this VOG thing again. Our next presentation will be April 12th, and the theme will be Friends and Rivals. Ooh, indeed. So, roll that around your noggin, and if you have a story that fits with one or both of those subjects, we would love to hear from you. Maybe some of you might have noticed that there were some index cards on your seats. If not, if you don't see one, perhaps you're sitting on it. And if not, we can also maybe get you some around and just jot down a few things to let us know if maybe you have a story or you know someone who might have a story that might fit into one or both of those themes of friends and rivals, and give us a little contact information, and we'd love to talk with you about it. The second thing you may want to know is that Sunday, November 12th, we are having a concert of inspirational music, and that will be here at First Parish. There will be vocalists as well as the First Parish Choir and as well as a live jazz band. And again, it'll happen right here, November 12th at 3:30 p.m. So please check the FPLEX, which is fplex.org website for information about that. But we'll be sending things out to you. Ready for more stories? Our first teller of the second half, Chali'naru Dones, is a Boricain Taino, indigenous two-spirited woman who works advocating for indigenous people. Her favorite fictional character is Harry Potter, because she loves anything supernatural. She has a 30-year-old blue and gold macaw named Sally Bean, and she cherishes her cats, her children, and her grandchild, hopefully not in that order. She enjoys dancing, crafting, creating balloon sculptures, things that bring joy, and so perhaps it is only fitting that Chali'naru, in the language of the Boricuan people, is bringer of joy. Please give a joyous welcome to Chali'naru Dones.
Right after my first daughter was born in 1992, I applied for Section 8. I was only 18 years old and needed help with housing. I knew it was going to take a long time. 20 years later, I was subletting a small one-bedroom apartment in South Boston. I only paid $300 a month. I think they wanted more money because a week after my son was born, the owner decided to kick me out. I told her I couldn't leave. I just had a baby. She didn't care, even though he was a week old. In the end, I had no other option but to seek help from the welfare department. It was so embarrassing, but we needed the help. I had no other place to go, and I didn't want them to think that because I was homeless, I was a bad person. They placed us in a family shelter, which at that time was a Days Inn hotel. It wasn't a nice place, just a small room with a tiny microwave, a mini fridge. All this stress and waiting for Section 8, and still my name hasn't reached the top of that list. As a spiritual person, all I had was my faith in the Creator that something positive was going to come out of this situation. I wasn't a bad person, and I definitely was not the stereotype that comes with low-income families, Section 8 recipients, and families on subsidized housing. I just kept it positive. 4 months later, that miracle happened. A new program emerged called Leading the Way Home, a voucher program to help homeless families with rent for a year while we get on our feet. Everyone in the shelter received that voucher. They provided the voucher. We found the housing. I began my housing hunt and found a place in Lowell, Mass. My voucher was accepted, and I moved in. All of a sudden, 5 months later, my name finally reached that top of that Section 8 wait list after 21 years. And I was awarded that long overdue piece of paper. Lowell was my home for about 8 years. Then I moved to Gardner, Mass. for about 2. While in Gardner, my younger daughter shared her pregnancy news. Now I had to find a place closer because I had to be with my grandson and be a part of my grandson's life. And so began my housing hunt all over again. That's what brought me to Newton. But getting here was no easy task. Section 8 vouchers holders come with a stereotype. Now, either you're going to destroy the place, move in a bunch of people, have too many kids you can't handle, and buy, sell, or use drugs out of your apartment. The minute I would add my voucher information to any application, automatically, that apartment was rented. Seriously? Now, even if I had done any of those things in the past, people deserve a second chance at life. They cared nothing for who I was or what I could bring to their unit. Now, if you know me, I'm Mrs. Fix-It. I'm that tenant that will save you money. But that voucher said otherwise. I stopped adding it to my applications. I wanted to see the apartment first. I wanted them to see me. Not so scary, am I? I dress up and present myself professionally. I would view the unit and ask my questions. And when I decided to apply, that's when I'd add the voucher information. The response was always the same. Oh, the landlord doesn't accept that. Well, that's illegal. That's a federal program. All landlords are supposed to accept it. None of that mattered. No was no. I continued my search and viewing units with the same old outcome. I was about to give up when I saw a listing for a 2-bedroom in Newtonville that the actual owner was showing it. It was supposed to be a 15-minute visit, but that turned into 2 hours. We talked and laughed so much. That wonderful energy fulfilled the room. This man was able to see me, the person, not the monster that piece of paper made me out to be. It's been almost 4 years, and Mr. Conti and I meet up every Friday night to talk story and catch up. Mr. Conti, my forever friend. Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Conti.
Wow. I just want to thank Chali'naru for sharing that with us. And I want her and everyone here to know, right, that we are all not the monsters we've been made out to be, right, by others. And to show that we have faith in that. Kemp Harris.
There's an old friend that I once heard say something that touched my heart, and it began this way. I was born by the river in a little tent, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know my change is gonna come. Oh yeah. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. I might not be if I knew what was up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know my change has got to come. Oh yeah. I went to my brother and I asked him, brother, could you help me please? He said, good brother, I'd like to, but I'm not able. And when I looked around, I was right back down on my bended knees. Yes, I was. Oh, way. I believe this evening my change is gonna come. Hey, I know my change is come. Hey, I know that one day my change is gonna come.
Man, Kemp, I almost went back to my Baptist days, man, on that one. I was about to start getting like the Raylettes, shoot, Don't do that no more, man. This is Lexington. They can't handle that. Yes, we can. I love that too. I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is going to come. Yes, it will. I love that tune because it speaks so beautifully to a sense of both feeling rootless and of also finding a faith, a deep, deep knowing that a change is going to come. Well, we all know a change is going to come. Change is going to happen whether we want it to or not. Some of those changes lead us upward. Some leave us bereft. And sometimes we change as we go through the world looking for what we had in the home we left. Our next teller, Dave Pollack, knows about this. Though Dave claims to have no hobbies, he does have a few favorite pastimes, not the least of which is floating on a big black inner tube on the Green River in Vermont, contemplating and daydreaming, perhaps of home. Please welcome Dave Pollack to the stage.
Hi, everyone. As many of you know, my wife, Joan Robinson, passed away in February. We spent 24 wonderful years together, and naturally her death has left a huge hole in my life and my heart. I'm now reflecting back, I realize how central my childhood home was in shaping me. So I'm using that experience as a compass moving forward. My home was two things. It was a happy, stable family and a very close-knit community. I was 6 years old when my family moved to Bannockburn, an unusual middle-class community in Bethesda, Maryland. It was unusual because my parents and about 100 other founders envisioned a utopian, collectively owned community. They set about making that happen by pooling funds to buy an old public golf course, including its large clubhouse. Next, they hired contractors to build houses they could afford. They set about, the clubhouse became the site of a cooperative nursery school and many other activities run by volunteers. When its old piano gave up the ghost, the neighbors saved trading stamps until they had enough books that they could buy a new piano or exchange for one. My father, who had a weak leg due to childhood polio, led the drive to develop a community swimming pool. Once built, it became another gathering spot for neighbors. It was there, at the swimming pool, that I met Joan Robinson. We were both 14 years old and on the swim team. She was my first girlfriend, and I was later broken-hearted when her family moved away a year later. But Bannockburn was more than Halloween parades and cookouts and swim meets. It was a community where consensus was built through democratic processes. And many of its members, including my family, took an active part in the civil rights movement starting in 1960, when we joined Howard University students in picketing the segregated Glen Echo amusement park. The park opened to all the following year. The only problem was it was hard to leave the warm and friendly Bannockburn for college. I now realize how much this special community affected my choices going forward. Throughout my college years, I lived in small, independent, cooperative housing rather than in the dorms. Teamwork was essential in keeping a semblance of order in the common spaces and led to closer friendships. After graduation, I joined the Navy rather than be drafted into the Army. I lived in another kind of group housing at Naval Officer Candidate School, an onboard ship. Teamwork again led to close friendships and reminded me of home. My childhood even pointed me to my long career at the Department of Housing and Urban Development in Washington. My work there, helping make cities and neighborhoods more livable. My work there involved planning and implementing and improving nationwide programs such as community development, block grants, and homeless assistance programs. Once we started to have children, my wife and I searched for and found a cohesive neighborhood in which to raise our kids. They were happy growing up there, but I still longed for a place where I would feel as much at home as I had in Bannockburn. After both our kids were in college, my wife and I divorced, having grown apart over the years. As fate would have it, Joan Robinson and I met again for the first time in 37 years at a Bannockburn reunion. That led me to moving to Lexington to live with her, and then we were married. Joan's friends became mine too, but I wanted to make other friendships as well, and I was still searching for the spirit and togetherness of progressive, cooperative Bannockburn. I found much of what I had been longing for here at First Parish, a caring, progressive community where the cooperative spirit lives and people seek to make the world a better place. I found commonly held values, spiritual growth, and deep friendships and fun. For me, this is home. Now working with others, I would like to bring the joy I find in this community to people experiencing loneliness and despair. Community is so important. This will define what comes next in a life molded by my childhood home in Bannockburn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Our last teller for this installment, Tejpreet Kalra, has been a Lexington resident since 2016, so she is a newbie. When I got here, I met a gentleman whose family had lived here for 30 years, and he told me he had just met someone a few weeks before. When he told them he had lived here for 30 years, that person said, "Welcome to the neighborhood." Tejpreet has served in a variety of volunteer and leadership positions right here in Lexington, including Lexington's PTO as president and vice president of staff and student relationships. She has worked as a physical therapist and with elders, and with her husband, Pavandeep is a proud parent of 2 children. She also teaches kids Sikh history at the Gurudwara, which is a Sikh place of worship in Westboro. My wife Katie and I, along with some people from the church and from Lexington, went out there last summer. And we can tell you that if you do go and visit, be prepared to be enlightened about the richness of Sikh culture and history. Be prepared to be stuffed with great food, and also to be welcomed warmly. Will you please give a warm welcome to our last teller of the evening, Tejpreet Kalra.
I grew up in India in a loving and devout Sikh home. In our home, we had the Sikh holy book, the Guru Granth Sahib, which was treated as a living being. Every morning, I was woken up by my mother's singing of the hymns and doing the rituals of opening up the Guru Granth Sahib, which is called Prakash, in our prayer room. She never failed to do the daily prayers and rituals, no matter what was going on in the world. Our home was our safe and sacred place. Our neighbors were from different faiths, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, and other Sikhs. As Sikhs were told to abide by the 3 golden rules: Naam Japna, to take God's name; Kirat Karni, to earn an honest living; and to Van Chakna, means to share with others and help others. My family were always ready to help others and provide to the needy. My mother taught in a local public school which had students from low-income families from every faith. She provided free tutoring to her students who needed the extra help. On October 31st, 1984, when I was only 9 years of age, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was assassinated by her Sikh bodyguards in retaliation for her military attack on the Sikh temple, the Golden Temple. Suddenly, our family, because we were Sikhs, were targets of politically motivated mob violence. The adults in our family got word this was happening. It was too late for us to flee. So they decided the best course of action was to make it appear that no one was home. All our scooters, motorbikes were brought inside the house. All the lights were turned off. We all sat together quietly and scared in our living room while watching the news and hearing the mobs chanting outside, "Kill any Sikh you see. Don't leave anyone alive." Other Sikh houses in our neighborhood were targeted also and burned to the ground. If the mobs saw any Sikh family, they burned them alive. So the first 2 nights, no one left our house, as it was too dangerous. When the mobs came to burn our house down, our neighbors of different faiths protected us. They told the mob that no one lived here, that we had left for America some time before. Meanwhile, our relatives who did live in America were calling us, advising us of what they had heard on the television and radio. My parents, uncles, and aunt made sure that we didn't make too much noise in the house or cook in the house, as it could appear suspicious that there was life in the house. At that time, one of our neighbors who was Christian would bring us food by jumping into our roof from the adjoining house. Sadly, some of the people in the mobs were parents of my mom's students, and they had forgotten how my mom had helped their kids in time of need. She still didn't lose her faith in God and continued to pray and performed her rituals in the prayer room, even though it was dangerous as the light in the room could alarm the mobs. We all believed that the Guru was protecting us and was finding ways to keep us safe through our neighbors. Once the neighbors felt that there was less danger, they helped most of my family get out of the house to our multiple Hindu neighbors' homes. My teenage brother, who, like most Sikh men, wore a turban to cover his long hair, was told to let out his hair and dress like a girl so no one would suspect that he was a Sikh boy. We all evacuated our house on the third day of this mob violence, except for my father and his best friend. They believed that the God would protect them, and they also didn't want to leave the Guru Granth Sahib behind. Our home phone was the only communication with our extended family in India and America. It was a terrifying experience, and we were not wrong to feel terrified, because over 8,000 Sikhs were killed in those days, following the Prime Minister's assassination. My cousin was harmed and left in a ditch to die. Fortunately, after a few days, he was rescued by a Hindu family. Once life returned to some normalcy, my mother went back to teaching, and she actually taught the same kids whose parents had tried to burn down our house. My father lost one of his bookshops in the Sikh school, which was burned down, but it didn't deter him from rebuilding and helping others get back on their feet. After this horrific incident, my paternal grandfather and my uncle, who lived in America, decided to file for green card for my dad's 6 siblings and their families. They felt that they would be safer in America. But it took many years for us to get green cards and come to America. I migrated to Maryland in 1995. In my new home, I made new friends from different faith and nationalities. As I was taught all my life, we are all God's children, and we need to love and support every human being, irrespective of their faith. Sometimes I think back of what happened in our neighborhood in 1984. We saw the worst then of what humans can do to other humans, taking revenge against people they no longer see as humans, like themselves. And yet, at the same time, we also saw the best of what humans can be. A community of neighbors protecting other neighbors and their homes from harm, regardless of their different faiths, or perhaps because of their teachings in their own faiths. Now I call Lexington my home, and grateful to be a part of this caring and diverse community. It is my hope for people of all faiths to live in harmony, safe in their homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tejpreet. You may not know, but most of us at VOG who put this on, we don't hear the stories beforehand. We maybe get a sentence of what they may start off as being, but we don't necessarily hear what they become. And we hear that along with you, usually. And I don't know about you, but I really needed a story about people of differing faiths helping each other and being there for one another. Thank you, Tejpreet. I want to thank all of our storytellers for inviting us into your space. Through your stories, through your stories and your courage to share them with us, we have seen how, whether home for us is a place in which we long to return, or a place that we long to forget, or a place that we feel we need to create for ourselves, home, or the idea of it, is a place in which we are forged and shaped. Thank you all for reminding us that though we know anger and prejudice and violence wear a human face, so too does hope help, laughter, and grace. Now, before we close out and leave this place and move along, how about a song? Kemp, bring us home.
Alrighty. I wrote this song. It is called Goodnight, America, and I wrote it as a lullaby for this country because I feel this country has been through a lot, and it's this place that we all call home. So this is called Goodnight, America.
Good night, America. Rest your weary head. Remember where you started and all that lies ahead. So, darling, good night, America. Doors will open for you, but there's miles to go before you find your way back home again. Good night, America. You're looking for some shelter from all the helter-skelter of this world we're living in. So, darling, good night, America. Hold on to tomorrow when all this pain and sorrow gives way to light again. You wear your heart upon your sleeve, but your sleeves ain't long enough. But the tough get going when the going gets rough, when the going gets tough. So, good night, America. Storms are closing in, and you don't know where you're going, and you don't know where you've been. So, darling, good night, America. I'll see you in the morning when another day is dawning and the sun comes shining through. I loved you then, and I love you still. You will always have my heart, and we'll all keep trying. Yeah, we'll all keep trying. Good night, America. Storms are closing in, and you don't know where you're going, and you don't know where you've been. So, darling, good night, America. I'll see you in the morning when another day is dawning and the sun comes shining through.
Kemp Harris, everybody. Kemp Harris. Keep that going. So we bring our storytellers back to the stage. Keep that going. Let's hear from Victoria Hardiman. Please come. Chali'naru Dones. Robert Robert Isenberg. Tejpreet Kalra and Dave Pollack, please come to the stage and take a bow. And also keep that going because there's a lot of worker bees that bring you this honey. Let's hear it for David Rose, Deb Lapidus, Suzanne Adams, Sarah Mannix, Amy Jameson, Tom Wanderer, Drew Chase, Andreas Padilla, Ruth Rose, who's in absentia, Liz Hartman also, and Deb Weiner Soul. Come on over, everybody. I'm Regie Gibson. I've been your host, and it has been a pleasure to be here with you. Will you please welcome the minister of First Parish, Ann Mason.
Thank you. My heart is so full. I know yours is too. I just feel so much gratitude for each one of you for sharing the intimacy of your stories. I think that's what home is for me, where we can be ourselves and know that we're still welcome. And so in this place, in this world that has so much violence and so many wars, where homes are being destroyed, in countries that are fighting because of religion and politics, we need more love and intimacy. We need people that will help each other from other religions, where it's not just up to one person finding their way, but it's a community like Dave Pollack's home, all those people together, coming back together in love and concern. And so just hold in your hearts the people that are without homes tonight, because there are so many that are refugees, that are being forced from their homes. And we pray that they can find peace, water, food, and a chance for a new place to find a home with each other, with their faith, and with other people of like-mindedness, because we are all people. As David Lerner said at the vigil last night, every single human life is important and beloved. And so with that, I say thank you, each human life that's here tonight, each human heart, each human home that we have experienced. Let us create home for each other. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for being here. We hope to see you soon.